Call to order the special meeting for the City of Dickinson for Wednesday, April 24th, 2019. Let the record show that we are missing one commissioner, Mrs. Trustham. And first item up is the order of business. We have one item on this order of business, and there shouldn't be any changes because this is a special meeting. So I'd look for a motion on the order of business.
So move.
We have a motion to approve the order of business as stands.
Second.
With a second, any further discussion on the order of business? All in favor of the order of business, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The order of business motion is passed. Mr. Gao, we have one item in this special meeting, and that is the lease with Freedom Energy.
Yes, there is a current lease that's set to expire in May of this year, so this is asking for a one-year extension.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions on this lease?
Have we talked to the company regarding this? It was my understanding that they've already drilled their interest, that this extension was really not necessary, but they were offering it anyway?
That was the understanding. I'll defer to Engineer Kubas. He's been directly working on this.
President Decker, Commissioner Frederick, I think there was possibly some misunderstanding on Freedom's Energy's part. They had extended this offer of a lease extension, understanding that they wouldn't have the well drilled by May, the expiration date on the lease. When they contacted Mr. Bogner, who was here at the last meeting, his instruction to them was that any activity towards that well being drilled solidified the lease, and they are building that well location right now. In fact, they had an email to staff that said that the well location would be completed this Friday. So in the eyes of their attorney, they're fulfilling, the lease is still secured by activity. And then they said, well, we've extended this offer of an extension. We would honor that offer, and I guess that's what we're considering today. One other question that was brought up was the mineral ownership of the quarter of land. The well that they had applied for would directionally drill under the land that the city owns where the fire training station is. We have a quarter section of land there, the city does. And our lease says that, Ms. Binstock looked this up, so is that we would retain 3/16 of the mineral ownership in that quarter of land.
Mrs. Murtha, by us extending this lease, the 1 year, does that automatically, is this extending this contract beyond what the original lease parameters that we maybe could renegotiate, or have we looked at this lease and is this basically them picking up the back end of the contract as most of these contracts allow?
So with regards to this particular lease, I was provided the lease extension last Thursday. I have not been provided the original lease.
Okay.
My opinion in reviewing the lease extension is it does exactly that. It extends all of the terms of the original lease. I don't even know if $50 per mineral acre is the amount in the original lease, but I'm assuming it is because it doesn't talk about price in the lease extension. It's just in the check and the order form. So yes, it's status quo for another year.
Okay. So at the end of 2020, we'll be looking at probably renegotiating terms on this.
I would suggest that,
Okay.
yes.
But if we haven't if they've already drilled the lease is over. Am I correct in that? They've started activities, so the lease is active. This really extension is not necessary, is the way I understand it. Have we reviewed that to see if it's even necessary?
As long as the city has an ownership interest in those mineral acres, then I would suggest that you would want the continued lease.
But
maybe I'm not understanding what you're concerned.
My understanding is, is the lease is in effect currently. They're beginning to drill the lease. So the lease is, they don't need to extend it because they've fulfilled the terms of the lease by drilling it in the time period that the original lease states. So do we even need an extension, or can we even renegotiate in here? I don't think we can. They've already drilled it.
You might be correct. We might be tied into the lease now since they've drilled it.
Even though they haven't put a drill bit in the hole, they've started the location, so that's the start of drilling out once that's started, the lease is done.
The term of the original lease expires at the end of May.
But the location will be done at the end of April.
The location will be done. So what they were offering to do, and the only thing the extension does, is extend the term. And I think that they were being abundantly cautious by wanting to extend it out so that there wouldn't be any question on timing.
I don't have any issue with that. We're talking about renegotiating in a year. There's nothing to renegotiate is what I'm trying to say.
And again, I couldn't comment on that because I've not been given the original lease to review. So I can't say if there is or isn't. All I can say is the only thing the extension does is extend the term, and that is it.
President Decker and Commissioner Frederick, I don't know all the intricacies of the state law too. So if this construction activity fulfills their lease right now, they don't have a well yet, so that there's I know some details in the state law about being an actively producing well too. So while they might have built this location and it fulfilled the terms of the initial lease, if they do nothing more and don't drill a well, it sits there inactive for, say, 2 years. That might, end the existing lease, and it might be releasable at some point. But again, that's probably more in the state statute than in the terms of our lease, I would think.
We're here in a special meeting to consider extending a lease that we haven't even reviewed.
The original was reviewed, but I understand where you're coming from and so on, but I don't think it's an issue either way.
We can extend it. I don't have an issue with it and take their $8,000. It's just, I'm not sure it's necessary for one, and two, I don't know what the future holds if what happens with Mr. Kubis is they build the location and they don't drill it for 2 years now. We don't have any of those details.
I was hoping that we would have reviewed the lease, but when I came in this morning, it had not been provided to us, the original lease yet, or we had not found it. So,
President Decker, I don't think they've offered anything in the way of renegotiating anything from the original lease, so that would be a separate item. If some things with this well that was just recently approved don't pan out on their end, then we could go back to the table with them. But it might be that they drill this well and the city collects the checks based on the terms of the lease that was agreed to, and it's kind of a done deal, so to speak.
Well, my point is if what they've done to this point doesn't constitute fulfilling the lease, then at the end of May, we could renegotiate. Now we're extending it without knowing what the lease really says.
And I would be happy to take a look at that original lease, but I would like that to be provided.
It's up to you. It doesn't matter.
well, we have till the end of this month. Am I correct?
Based upon the language of the extension, yes.
Yeah, which we're not even 100% sure on that, are we? That the lease goes till the end of May?
It's restated in the extension, so that's my only basis for saying that.
Right. We're basically operating off of what they've provided us. So, if commissioners, if you're not comfortable with it, And right now, my personal opinion, I would like Mrs. Murtha to review the lease before we proceed on this, especially if we have 7 days. Because we can call another special meeting, just to clarify the lease terms.
Absolutely, then I would just, I mean, if it hasn't been found, or just ask that it,
Right.
the meeting be conditioned upon the lease being provided for legal review.
Okay. Well, I would think that providing this lease should not be that big an issue.
I would agree.
So, I guess my suggestion would be that I would look, that we table this issue until Mrs. Murtha can review it, and then we'll convene another special meeting to make sure. I want to make sure that we're not extending something we don't need to extend, or we're putting ourselves in a position that there's a possibility we could renegotiate this lease already because we're outside of the options.
I mean, we had the same information at the last commission meeting.
Exactly.
I mean, and we tabled it so we could review it, and we don't really have nothing to review.
To be fair, I didn't even have the lease extension at the last commission
Oh,
meeting.
okay.
I didn't see that until Thursday.
Well, I'd make a motion to table it then, so we could have a chance to find the lease and review it.
Okay. We have a motion to table
Second.
with a second. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. This item is tabled until we can call another, can be reviewed, and we'll call another special meeting to meet the needs of to fulfill this agreement. There's no other business during this special meeting, so I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We're adjourned.